Welcome to Northwest Church Online. Thank you so much for tuning in. As you watch the message today, you can access the notes and follow along in the link in the description. Thank you again for joining us. Let's jump into the message.
We got a brand new series started called Carry On. And so typically in February, I preach a series on relationship. After all, Valentine's Day is just around the corner. Now, guys, let me help you out today. There are no excuses because the candy, the cards, the flowers are everywhere as a visual reminder not to wait until the last minute to plan a date, to attend the XO conference, and to pick out a gift for your spouse. It's a fun day for a lot of people, but for some, it's a time of the year that can be difficult and even discouraging. What I mean by that is maybe you're alone. Maybe you have lost a spouse. Maybe your spouse walked out and left you with your kids. Your marriage has lost its passion. Or maybe you're waiting for the right guy or the right gal, and you're ready to meet the right person. Can I just give you guys something free right out of the gate? If you want to meet the right person, it starts with being the right person. And if you're going to be the right person, you need to be in the right place. Can't meet the right person in a bar, some crazy dating app. No, you know what you need? You need to be in the house of God looking for a man or woman of God. And you're not going to find a man or woman in God in some of these places that people are looking for love today. So if you want to meet the right person, be the right person, and you're going to meet the right person because the right person will be in the right place. That's a great place to say amen right there. That was really good stuff. Well, this year, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to focus less on healthy relationships and more on a healthy you. Here's a tagline. Here's a line I want you to write down this morning somewhere in your notes or put it on your phone. I want you to put this in your backpack. I want you to take this with you because this is the essence of what I'm going to be talking about today. A healthy you is the best gift you can give to all other relationships. A healthy you is the best gift that you can give to all other relationships. Now, in this series, we're going to unpack baggage that we've been carrying around for years, literally carrying from one relationship to another. We're going to look at insecurities. I'm not talking about being insecure. I'm going to look at insecurities. All of us have insecurities, but that does not mean we're insecure. But every one of us have insecurities. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about anxiety that leads to fear or fear that leads to anxiety. We're going to talk about shame that we have, things that we've done in our past or poor decisions or bad mistakes. And we're going to unpack baggage this morning from our past relationships because they can be detrimental to our present relationships. Now, if you travel at all, you know the stress of carrying or dragging all of your luggage. Just packing stresses Christy out. Now, it's not because of her, but it's because of me. So I like to get everything out. I like to lay it out all on the bed. I got it organized day by day by day, and I got it all in categories. And as I'm doing all of this, Christy is on the other side, and she's packing, but I have to ask questions as we're packing, and that distracts her from packing her own stuff. And then whenever we get where we're going, she's frustrated with me because she forgot something. And I'm like, well, I can't help it if you forgot that. She said, well, Joe, I wouldn't have forgot that if you wouldn't have been asking me 20 questions about what you should be packing. But I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Traveling is stressful. And after you pack, you got the challenge of trying to fit everything into the car. And if you fly, just waiting at the baggage carousel alone is enough to send you off the ledge. Anybody know what I'm talking about? That part right there is stressful for me. I'm going to stop. Telling stories. Then trying to get 15 bags on a tram or a cab or Uber or a crowded elevator and trying to hold the door open to your room so you can throw everything in. Traveling with our luggage is not fun, and it is often stressful. traveling with our baggage. It's not fun, but it's always a great feeling when you get to the room and you unpack everything and you organize it. And I don't care what time I get to the room, the first thing I got to do is I've got to unpack everything. I cannot do the suitcase thing. You know, you put it up there, you just take stuff out. Can't do that. Whether I'm there one night or 5 nights, I got to take it out of suitcase. I got to put it in the drawers. I got categories and sections. I got it all laid out. And when I know I got issues, but when I get all of that done, I can relax and enjoy the trip. But I can't relax and enjoy the trip when I got stuff in the suitcase, stuff over here and all that. Just, no, I got to get organized. It frees my mind, my emotions, and I get to enjoy the trip. Well, some of us are struggling, watch this, with enjoying our journey and our relationships because we've not unpacked our baggage. We're living out of our suitcase. We're scrambling, picking, looking through things, trying to figure out what we're going to wear, what we're going to do. We're trying to navigate our overcrowded and crazy lives while carrying baggage makes it almost impossible to live with freedom, let alone have any fun in our relationships. So I want to get started this morning unpacking some overdue baggage. So today we're going to kind of do like a flyover, and then we're going to come back over the next 3 weeks and do a little deep dive into some specific baggage that all of us probably carry from one time or to another. We're going to look at 2 passages today. One, we're going to be looking at Hebrews. So I want you to find the book of Hebrews today. Hebrews chapter 12, and I'm going to finish up in 1 Peter. So Hebrews chapter 12 and finishing up in 1 Peter. Are y'all ready for this? Okay, here we go. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith," watch this, "let us strip off," everybody say strip off. "Let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up." Watch this. "And let us run with endurance the race God has set before us." Now we've talked about context on Wednesday night. Now the writer, let's put it in context. The writer uses the metaphor of a runner running a race in front of a huge audience. Now, the word he uses for race here is agon, and here's what it means. It's where we get the English word agony from. So, it was a word they used to refer to a 5-event sporting match that ended with the boxing match. So, after the running and the swimming, you'd square off in a boxing ring. It was an agonizing event. Again, 5 events. Can you imagine at the end of the freestyle relay, Michael Phelps would go over and have to fight Conor McGregor? A little stressful. Here's the point that the writer is making. The Christian race can be agonizing at times, meaning it's not going to be easy. And for many of you, this is where you are. Maybe you are in a difficult chapter. This is not where you plan to be at this point in your life. But to run the race effectively, the author says that you have to strip off everything that weighs you down, especially sin. Now, he separates, weigh everything down, especially sin. So there are other things, watch this, that are not sin that weighs us down as well. We're going to be talking about some of those things over the next 3 weeks. But to run the race effectively, you got to strip away anything and everything that's going to weigh you down. The race is already difficult, but it becomes even more difficult and almost impossible to run if you're trying to get to point A to point B and you have all of this luggage. How many of you have ever flown an airplane? Raise your hands. Not a trick question. Raise your hand. How many of you have ever been late to your connecting flight? If you fly, they're all late. And so you have to, how many of you have to run through the airport? and you're running through the airport and you got like all of this luggage, right? I mean, you're trying, especially, you probably got at least a carry-on, and then you got a backpack on. I mean, you're literally running through the airport. No one else is in a hurry. Nobody has the courtesy to get out of your way. Everybody wants to wait and get in the middle of the walking lane to have a conversation, or a family reunion is what I call them. It's like 20 people get out in the middle of the walkway, and you're literally like trying to run through the airport, and you're trying to get there. How many of you know it's more difficult if you're carrying luggage? Now watch this. The more luggage you have, the more difficult it is to get from point A to point B. But that's exactly what happens to us, right? We got all of this luggage, and we're running through this race called life. So the language used in Hebrews for getting rid of the things that weigh us down is not passive, but it's almost a violent action. You are to throw or quickly get rid of your weight and your baggage. This is the image the Hebrew writer wants you to think about. Get rid of the baggage. Why? Because I don't care how slow of a runner you are, you're going to be faster if you don't have to carry all of this baggage with you. Here's the issue. In most of our relationships, our focus is always on the other person. Always like, well, this is your issue. This is your baggage. This is your fault. If you didn't say this, if you didn't do that. But in this series, the focus is going to be on us. Why? Because a healthy you is the best gift you can give to all other relationships in your life. If you will get healthy, you're 50% better off immediately overnight. So the focus is going to be on you. I want to give you 3 things today. They're in your notes that will help you. I hope will help you. Number 1, is this good? Is this practical? This is practical stuff, okay? Number 1, baggage is anything that weighs me down. Baggage is anything that weighs me down. Look at verse 1. He says, let us strip off every weight. Now that word weight out beside of that in parentheses, here's how that word is translated in Greek. It simply means burden. Oh, isn't that good? So strip away every weight. Watch this. Every burden that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. Following Christ, it's not a tourist trip. It's not a walk in the park. It's an agonizing race that we are called to finish well. And as we get closer to the return of Christ, the more agonizing this race will become. The more difficult and the more challenging it's going to be. Running this race requires endurance and it requires faith. Watch this. Anyone can start the race, but not everyone will finish the race. And there's a lot of people that start today, but they don't finish. One of the ways that you can finish the race is to get rid of some of this baggage that you no longer need in your current relationships, including your relationship with Jesus Christ. So strip away some of these things that you've been carrying around that's been weighing you down, that have become a burden in your life. And the writer says, strip away these things. Why? Because they slow you down, and eventually they have the potential to trip you up, which means to make you fall. If you fall, you're going to get hurt, and sometimes when you fall, you don't get back up and finish the race. And so what can weigh us down? Well, sin. There are other things that weigh us down as well. Anxiety, fear, shame, insecurities. Emotional, spiritual baggage can not only slow us down, but can cause us to give up or quit our relationships with others and even our relationship with Christ. We can no longer ignore the weight, the burden, the baggage we've been carrying around for years, because here's what most of us look like every Sunday. We got all this baggage. don't know how I'm going to do this. We got all this baggage, and we're walking around like this, and everybody's like, how you doing? I'm doing good. Everything's great. I got it all together. Things are really good. And this is what we look like almost every day of our lives. We got all of this weight. We got all of this burden, and we're trying to hold it together. And then the next thing you know, we got more baggage going on, and we're just literally walking around like this, and we're fine. Man, we're great. We put our pictures on Facebook, and we show our feet in the sand and on the ocean, and we're just doing really good. And what we don't realize is we got all of this baggage that we're carrying around. And guess what? Believe it or not, everybody can see all your baggage. I got it together. No, you're not. You're a hot mess. And you carry that stuff around all the time. And you wonder why you're emotionally and spiritually and physically tired all the time. Because you're running a race with all this baggage that you were never intended to run this race with. Till we stop and unpack it, we're going to continue to carry it, watch this, from one relationship to another relationship. The best gift you can give to any relationship is a healthy you. Some of you can't even get on the plane and take your trip because you got too much weight in your carry-on. Boy, I've had some interesting discussions trying to get on the plane with the carry-on. And then you ever get there and you put your bag up on the scale and there's a weight limit on what you can do. Almost every time I fly out of XNA, I see some poor soul got the bag spread out and they're pulling stuff out of the bag because they got too much weight for that baggage to get on the plane. Now what happens is too, if you don't want to unpack it, you got to pay extra money for that baggage. You have to get rid of some stuff. Because if you choose not to lighten your luggage, again, you're going to be charged more than extra weight of burden you continue to carry on. Watch this. All of this extra weight and burden that you choose to carry, it's always going to cost you more. Instead of unpacking it, we just said, well, we're just going to keep paying this. The emotional, the physical, we're just going to keep paying the extra because we really don't want to get rid of this baggage. Number 2, unresolved conflict always leads to more baggage. Man, we're getting in the weeds today. Nobody coming next week. Unresolved conflict. I don't like unresolved conflict. Like, I can't deal with it. It just eats me alive. It's not good. It's not healthy. I will do anything to my power, honestly, try to resolve conflict. Conflict happens when there's a gap. Watch this. Conflict happens when there is a gap between expectations and reality. I want you to think about this. If I believe I should be making more money or have a better career, it can lead to anxiety, stress, and fear. If I'm disappointed in my walk with Christ, then I start having more guilt and more shame. If I feel I should be a better spouse, but I'm not, then I begin to have insecurity. Again, conflict happens when there's a gap between expectation and reality. The more space between expectation and reality, the more room I leave the devil to speak lies into my life. Some of us may have unresolved conflict in our relationships, and some of that unresolved conflict with us is what leads to more baggage in our life. To be honest, some of our expectations are simply unrealistic of others, and some of our expectations are unrealistic of ourselves. And some of you may have already made some poor choices and some mistakes in your life, and you may be thinking, I can no longer have my preferred future because of my past. In his book, A Grace Disguised, the writer says this. I want you to lean in and get this. I must let go of my regrets over what could have been to pursue what can be. Isn't that good? We can't change the situation, but we can allow the situation to change us. My expectations can remain high as long as I'm willing to adapt them to new circumstances. We resolve conflict when we start the process of closing the gap between unrealistic and unfair expectations and reality. Now, let me help you with unresolved conflict as much as I can. Do I have unresolved conflict? I'm sure I do. I have tried over the years to resolve conflict. I have asked to meet with people. I have asked, is there any way we can sit down and talk? Let me help you with this. If the expectation in resolving conflict is to prove who's right or who's wrong, that conflict will never get resolved. I'm not interested in who's right, who's wrong. I just want to get it resolved because it doesn't matter to me. Because as long as there is a winner and there's a loser, that conflict is always going to be there. It's going to be beneath the surface, but it's always going to be there. Now watch this. It takes two people to resolve conflict. It takes two people. And I've always said that if two Christ followers don't have the maturity to sit down and resolve conflict, man, there's something wrong with that picture. We ought to be able to sit down as Christ followers and resolve any conflict that we might have in our lives in a Christ-like manner. And if we can't, one or both, there's something not healthy about that situation. But again, you can't go into it, whether that's your spouse, your friend, someone at work, your kids, if you're there to prove who's right or who's wrong. At that point, it doesn't matter. Because we have an obligation and a responsibility as Christ followers to resolve all conflict in our lives, to make sure that we're living our lives and running this race with no unresolved conflict. It is a commandment and an expectation of Jesus Christ. All right, enough of that. Number 3. Y'all get anything out of this? This is good. Carry on baggage. This is my favorite point right here. Carry on baggage always carries over. Carry on baggage always carries over. Now, I want you to think about baggage that's weighing you down. Let's say this. Let's say if you only have, okay, no, Christy, you come on up here. Come on up here, baby. Surprise, surprise. Okay, so let's just say if you're carrying 2 suitcases of baggage, whatever's in your baggage, whether that's shame, guilt, sin, insecurities, whatever you got going on in your life, and you're carrying it, and then you meet this good-looking girl, and you got to get your baggage, baby, okay? Okay? And so you got 2 baggages right here. You got two carry-ons, and then you meet somebody else, they got 1. Guess what happens? Now both of you have 3. You see what I'm saying? Carry on baggages always carry over. So if you don't deal with your baggage, wherever you are in your life, you're just going to carry that over to another relationship. This is what happens to us. We don't resolve our conflicts. We don't unpack our own junk and our own stuff. And you know what we do? We leave this relationship and then we just go to another relationship. But what we take with us is our baggage because we didn't check it. We didn't unpack it back here. We didn't resolve it back here. So we said, well, that's the problem. It's not the baggage. It's you. It's back there. So we just leave that relationship and then we carry it on. We're like, oh, this is great. And then you meet somebody else and now they have baggage. And here you go. Come on, baby. Let's go. We're going on a trip. And now here you are walking around and all of you are carrying your baggage around. Now you have more baggage than what you had before. Thank you, baby. I'll buy you lunch today for that, okay? Carry on baggage. Sam, can I borrow your card? Can I borrow? Now, both of you are going to have problems. You see how this carries over? So if you don't resolve it, you're just going to carry it over in another relationship. I say that this applies to every relationship in your life. If you're married this morning and you don't learn to resolve conflict, you say, okay, I quit. I can't make this work anymore, so I'm going to get a divorce. If you don't resolve it, if you don't take care of it, you're just going to carry that over into another relationship. If you can't resolve conflict at work, you're going to quit your job, but you're going to carry that same baggage, that same junk, that same unresolved conflict into the next work, and then it's still going to be there when you get there. It's good preaching, Pastor Joe. You see, our baggage, our carrying on baggage always carries on. The loss of relationships, careers, dreams, and even faith itself can happen because unresolved and unpacked baggage. Oftentimes, the loss of one leads to the loss of another. Unpacked baggage is not an isolated issue. How often do we enter into a relationship with a desire to fix the other person's problem before we fix ourselves? Jesus tells us in Matthew chapter 7, verse 3, He says, and why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? How can you think of saying to your friend, let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Look at verse 5, because he's got a strong word for this. Hypocrite. First get rid of the log in your own eye, then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. So Jesus, watch this, don't get mad at me, but he calls us hypocrites. That word hypocrite, by the way, I want you to write this out. It means actor. Y'all ready for this? In essence, Jesus says, when we don't deal with our own stuff, we're playing a role of an actor. We're not living in reality. We're simply an actor. Too many times we are worried. Are y'all ready for this? We are worried about everyone else's problem, their baggage, but we don't notice our own baggage that's weighing us down. All right, Pastor, we all have baggage. We're all a hot mess. I've met somebody that's got lots of baggage. Now I feel like scum. What do I do? What is the solution? Here we go. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7. It says, give all of your worries and your cares to God because He cares about you. One translation there says, cast all of your anxieties. All of those things that cause anxiety in your life, fear in your life. Watch this. He says, cast those things off. The idea is that word give or that word cast is translated as to hurl. So you don't gently give your baggage to God, but you hurl it at Him. The image is that you're trying to get rid of it as fast as you possibly can. Now, Sam, I know this is your stuff, and I'm not going to treat it any different than they would at an airport, okay? But here's the idea. Are you guys ready for this? So when Jesus says in 1 Peter, watch this, when He says cast all of your cares, when He says get rid of that luggage and get rid of that burden, you know what He really is saying? What did He say? Hurl it. Get rid of it. You get that? Why? Because you want to get rid of it as quickly as possible. Because if you don't, the tendency is I'm just going to hang on to it a little bit longer. And then sooner or later, it's comfortable. And we just say, well, it's become our identity. Are you guys with me? We need to stop making excuses like, well, if God really knew what's in my bag, He wouldn't want it. Or I want to hold on to my baggage because, again, it's what gives me identity. Well, stop letting the other people and your baggage to define who you are. You are not a former drug addict. You are set free, a child of God, and now you have a testimony. You're not an unwanted or unloved divorced single mom, but you are a woman with divine purpose, and you are loved by your Father today. Your baggage does not define you, and it should not define you anymore. Some of you need to take that baggage and just simply throw it away, hurl it, give it to God, and say, I refuse to let it go with me anymore. It stops here today. I refuse to allow my carry on to carry over anymore. Because listen, until you get rid of it, until you literally hurl it, get rid of it, then you're just always going to be carrying it. Here's the deal. God gave you a free will. And you can carry your baggage your entire life. Watch this. And you can blame your baggage on everybody else. You can blame it on your spouse, your kids. You can blame it on your parents, your teachers, your ball coach. You can blame it on your boss. Or you can simply stop and say, you know what? I am going to deal with my own baggage. And here's what I've learned. When I deal with my baggage, it is amazing how much more healthy that relationship becomes overnight. I just take care of mine. I'm going to give you something free today. One more thing. Y'all ready? I want you to write down these 3 things that will help you. These are very practical things that will help you get rid of your baggage. Are y'all ready? Has this been good? Number 1, choose your friends wisely. Choose your friends wisely. Friends who don't call you out on your junk are not true friends. True friends will tell you you're carrying baggage. True friends will tell you you're a hot mess. True friends will tell you that you're wrong in this situation. True friends will tell you there's another side to this story. Choose your friends wisely. Number 2, some of you need to drop certain activities. Some of you simply need to stop doing some of the things that you're doing, because all it's doing is adding more weight to your baggage. Whether that's viewing pornography, whether that's being involved in chat lines, whatever that may be. Maybe that's cheating on your income taxes. Yeah, it's a great time of the year to talk about that. Whatever it may be. Some of you need to stop doing some of the things you're doing. Because every time you do those things, you're adding weight to that baggage and you're adding weight to your relationships overall. Number 3, get some help with accountability. Now, look at me for a moment. I'm going to let y'all finish writing. Tell me when you're done. Y'all done? Everyone in this room, everyone's watching online. Let me tell you something. I don't want to hurt your feelings today, but all of us have baggage. Every one of us. All of us have baggage. Now, we're either going to carry this baggage around the rest of our life. And here's what I've learned with people. We blame it on everybody else. Well, I wouldn't be this way. Well, I wouldn't have. Well, you the problem. Okay? Now, here's also what I know. This baggage is small, and I can maybe handle it. Okay? It's not a big deal. Okay? But some of our baggage is heavy stuff. This is like Christy's bag. When we get ready to go somewhere, it takes 3 people at the airport to get it over there. Bringing a forklift to get it over. Okay? I'm buying lunch and dinner now. And a purse. Anyway, and we're not going anywhere for a while. But here's what I know. Some of our luggage we can't deal with it by ourselves. We need some help with it. It's too big, it's just too bulky, and some of us need to get some help and get some accountability. Accountability is your friend. I said accountability is your friend. Okay, we all have baggage. So next week, we're going to unpack some of the junk in those baggage. Maybe batteries. We're going to unpack it. Would you bow your head with me this morning?
What a powerful message from the Word of God. Thank you so much for joining us today. And today, if you want to make a decision to become a Christ follower, you can go to northwestchurch.tv, hit the Church Online tab, and send us a message. We want to connect with you. We want to pray with you and help you take those next steps in your walk with Christ. Also today, make sure if this message encouraged you to share this with your friends and family, because if it encouraged you, it'll likely encourage someone else. Again, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.